Hello, hello. Welcome to the Friday edition of Total Health Live, the show where we answer your questions and also provide you with some of the latest and greatest in natural health solutions so that you can thrive rather than just survive. I'm Dr. Christopher Vogelmann of the same name, drvogelmann.com. And with me, as always, is our noted nutritionist to the stars.
It's me, Monika. You caught me rubbing my nose when we came on air, and I was in the middle of taking something called Acute Rescue. I don't even know if it's still made, but it's sort of like similar to...
It's like a rescue remedy?
But it's more homeopathic versus flower essences.
Got it.
Although it does have some flower essences, but it's mostly... So I don't even know if it's made, but for some reason, I can't find my rescue remedy. So I found this one.
So it's like an emotional life preserver.
Yeah. I just had a little bit of a panic this morning, which we won't go into, but never a dull moment in 2021. A continuum of 2020.
Well, somebody told me that the irony of the date 2021 is that 2020 won. and now.
You know, I was talking to a friend and she said Match.com has a funny commercial with the devil. And did you see that one?
I've seen it. Yeah. 2020 is the gal, actually. Her name is 2020.
That's right.
And they're matched up with the devil with the big horns and the whole thing, and how they really enjoy each other's company because they're the perfect match.
Yeah, I just, not that the devil should be nice to look at, but that was a very disturbing looking icon of a devil. Well, they say the devil's in the details, so we've had a lot of details in 2020. There were a lot of details. Anyway, welcome to 2021. Hopefully, it gets better as we progress.
Indeed. This is episode 45, where we will continue to thrive.
Yes. In fact, I just wrote my article. It was titled, So What's It Going to Take? That was the name of my article. And I did start in, and I did reference your what you're saying about 2021, get her done.
Oh, get her done in 2021. Get her done.
I did reference that. So
that's my homage to Larry. That's my homage to Larry, the cable guy. So get her done.
Yeah, we have a guest with us today, and she just has to say hello.
Wait, she's a Kittler.
She's a Kittler, and she's got.
We used to say those are cats who look like Hitler.
She's got her little hoodie on.
Got her hoodie.
Her little, what are they called? Cones. So she's got it on for another week. She had a little bit of an anal gland rupture. And
excuse me, this is not the proctology hour.
Anyway, it's quite common apparently with dogs and not so common with cats, but she's getting lots of love and lots of attention, and she's got one more doctor's appointment. And
maybe you have a cat who thinks she's a dog.
She does follow me around a lot.
There you go.
Okay, so that was her debut on Total Health Live.
The only cones I prefer are ice cream cones.
I thought you were off ice cream completely.
I had a little the other day for the first time in a couple of months. Yeah.
A couple of months. Oh,
well, I went ice cream free from, I think it was from June.
Was that cold turkey?
Pretty much, but it was actually Moose Tracks, not cold turkey. Well, actually, no. This was New York. Yeah, I know. I got the cold turkey, frozen turkey.
Yeah, because I thought you might have gotten it.
It takes a while to thaw that turkey from when you buy it in the store, frozen. But anyway, so
wonderful gluten toast and with almond butter, and
you had gluten toast,
gluten-free
toast,
and it was cold.
Cold.
But I was so busy with this other thing that anyway, it was cold toast. You ever had cold toast?
I've had cold toast. I used to do cold pizza for breakfast when I was in college.
Yeah, cold toast is basically you toast it and then it sits there for a while. But this is right out of the toaster and it was still cold.
It's not from the toaster to the freezer and then to your mouth.
No, it was freezer, toaster, cold still.
Freezer, like toaster frozen toaster waffles.
Whatever. It's a very fun. You know what? This is the whole thing. Stuff happens. Life happens. We just have to be resilient and bounce back and laugh. We have to laugh.
You need a sense of humor.
I've got a list of all these little mountains that I've been climbing over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and they're so big and vast and continuous that it's just laughable. We just have to
Sometimes it's too much for our half-vast minds.
Yes. So you had some ice cream. Back to the ice cream.
I had some ice cream. I mean, but then it's over and done. I was gifted some ice cream on December 4th.
Gifted.
And it wasn't. Yeah, it was a gift. It was a small gift left for me by my lovely wife.
Wrapped?
It was not gift wrapped, but it was in honor of our 6th year wedding anniversary.
Oh.
And I left my gift in the freezer for about a month. And that took a certain amount of willpower, but honestly, there wasn't a strong desire for it. And then I got a little stressed.
The 6th anniversary of your wedding. I thought you got married in February.
Well, the truth of the matter is, we went to the courthouse, got married December 4th, and then the following February on the 22nd is when we had the big old party.
Who knew?
Yeah,
I guess I did.
I knew.
I think I did too. Maybe
I think you did. But there's no reason for you to think of December 4th. I mean,
it is my brother's birthday, so I do.
Well, then remember me on your brother's birthday.
Yes. Yeah. So that would not work.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Do I remind you of your brother?
Just that you're both doctors.
Okay. So that was think of your doctor brother.
And you're both German.
German, yeah.
Yeah. And you're both funny. You like to tell jokes, both of you.
We like to tell jokes. I'm more of the punster, the punny guy.
Yeah, he's a joke. He likes to tell jokes. He tells these really elaborate jokes. Although
I don't have enough time for elaborate jokes because the clock is ticking on my life. So
yeah. Well, he's older than you, but he did suffer his stroke, the COVID-related stroke. So he's not able to grapple with words as well as he used to.
Is he doing better? Is he doing better since?
Yeah, there's improvement. In fact, my mother, speaking of my family, which I'll share, my mother had the vaccine on Sunday. So she seems to be doing well.
The Pfizer or the Moderna or the Russian one?
I don't know, but it's in Canada and they seem to be quite organized there. And so as we sort of segue into our COVID topic.
We do a little bit of the C word. Every time when we started.
Yeah, it's no longer the old C word. It's
this is the new. Our new C word is catastrophic. So.
Yeah. The big C. So she had the vaccine and apparently there's a lot of people. Apparently there's a something going, well, not something, I think it's a mandate or something, anyone who's over 65. And I just read something from an organization called Senior Concerns here. And they said, please do not make appointments if you're over 65 to get a vaccine. The first people that will get vaccines, because there aren't enough, the first people that get vaccines are essential workers and those living in skilled nursing facilities.
Yeah, well, it makes sense if you have a bunch of social workers too, but frontline health workers and others, I mean, the funny thing is, for me, vaccines are very controversial, but I do see value in discussing those things. True confessions, I've never been vaccinated. So that was just my father's preference.
Polio?
What's that?
Polio?
Nope. Everybody got those little sugar cubes with the yellow stuff on, and I was one of 3 kids standing in the hallway watching kids get it in the cafeteria.
Mumps and all those things.
Nada.
Really interesting. Yeah.
I got chicken pox.
Chicken
pox.
Not
the vaccine. So a little herpes zoster never hurt anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so anyway, yes, I am not, I'm definitely not gleefully looking at getting the vaccine. Although, if I want to travel to Canada, I may have to, unfortunately. But
I will tell you, just based on the science, messenger RNA not being the actual entire virus or even live or dead, that actually is far more reassuring to me than if it was made from a dead virus or live virus. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of information that sort of is reassuring and makes us feel, well, maybe it's okay. But then there's a lot on the other side. So it's still too soon to tell, right?
Well, that's why you want to vaccinate like 100 million people and see what happens.
Yeah. So anyway.
It reminds me a little bit of, God, what was it? Vioxx that came out many, many years ago as an anti-inflammatory.
Yes.
And Vioxx, in trials of 10,000 or even 40,000 people looked very safe and looked wonderful. And then suddenly when you unleashed it on 4 million people, or actually more than 10 million people, you had people dying from cardiac symptoms. And there were a lot of deaths associated with Vioxx and long-term disabilities. And so Vioxx was pulled from the market. And,
so, I remember that well.
Yeah, a lot of it just depends on your N. How many people have actually been used? Well, actually, it's kind of like a guinea pig. How many people have been taking a particular medication and what have the side effects been? But you need a huge number of people to really determine things. And I don't know that maybe that's one of the concerns of vaccines.
I mean, I have a concern because my husband reacted to an antiviral, like near fatally. He reacted. So, I mean, even though he is a potential top of the list candidate, I'm a little concerned about that.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, we know certain things, like the smallpox vaccine. I remember that in the 1960s, my grandmother actually had to have that to go to Europe, to Germany. You had to be vaccinated with the smallpox vaccine. And so she got it, but her arm blew up like a balloon and giant scabs and redness and fever and everything. And it turned out she was one of those people who should not have had the smallpox vaccine.
Well, that's it. That's it. Everyone is unique and
everybody's different.
There should be some way of gauging and understanding, like even just the whole idea of MSG, for example.
Right.
People react to MSG. Well, many populations don't, specifically Asian populations, they do not react. It's in their system. They're genetically, immune to any sort of reaction to it. Just because of usage and their genetic predisposition. So, I mean,
there is, just as there's genetic variability, there's biochemical individuality.
Exactly.
And the example I always remember that always makes me smile is if you feed asparagus to Chinese, there's no smell in the urine. But if you feed it to the French, all of them have that horrible smell in the urine. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, only the French? Or
no, others, but the example has always been the French because I don't know, it's a totally European. I think it's just because maybe the French were probably a little further west and didn't quite get all that.
Well, that would be my genetics too then.
There you go.
So, yeah.
I'm not going to ask you that personal question.
Yeah, no, please.
Okay. So.
So, I mean, jury's still out.
Jury's out. But who's the judge?
Who's the judge?
And who's the executioner?
Well, hopefully we won't need to use those terms.
Yeah. I think that the challenge that we have right now is that people really have ignored so many health warnings. And in particular, we see the rise of cases, the decreased number of hospital beds available. We see more tents going up outside of hospitals now because of these holiday events. Thanksgiving had a little surge. Christmas had a surge. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a post-Valentine's Day surge coming up at some point.
Well, I don't know. Maybe that's a convenient explanation. I don't know if that's.
It's pretty. I mean, statistically speaking, if you look at the numbers and you see the events, and you can correlate the number of people traveling by air or by car to see relatives with the incidence of spikes in cases. So it's pretty, I mean, from an epidemiological standpoint, it's pretty sound as far as the science of the statistics go.
Well,
it's not a made up thing.
There's a lot of irrational things going on. For example, people are squished in like sardines into planes, right? And then I saw this thing. I guess it was.
Although eating sardines can help your immune system, as opposed to being squished in a plane like a sardine.
Essential fatty acids, but so they're squished. I saw this. I don't know if it was a report or something on Facebook, and then there was an analogy to people not being able to sit very close in churches. And I have a little bit of a interest in that, because my church, which is right next to us, Catholic church right next, it's not my church, but there's a Catholic church right next to us, and they're outside. So I get to hear amplified music, not just on Sunday mornings, 3 sermons, like 8, 9, and whatever.
There's a lot of masses there at the Catholic Church.
But there's other kind of masses, and I'm hearing this, and it's, it comes right into my home. So the sooner they get back into the church building, the better.
Get inside. You want some soundproofing. How about the bells? I thought the bells were a problem for a while.
The bells.
Weren't the church bells bothering you at different times, or no?
No, they just ring every hour on the hour. So no, they're just noticeable, and they just give you an anchor. Oh, it must be that time of day. But I grew up in the church, in a Lutheran church, and
did they?
I go to this other church occasionally, and one of the reasons is he's a really great minister, and he's funny, and the music is fabulous. So if it were that kind of fabulous music, I might object less.
The better the music, the more peaceful the neighborhood.
But even though, I mean, if I don't want to listen to something, and I'm trying to concentrate, I would rather have quiet around, because quiet is so underrated. Don't you think? Quiet is so underrated.
Yeah, peace and quiet is really good. But speaking of things that are underrated, I think some of our questions, we didn't get to all of our questions last week.
We have to finish them.
Yeah, we had several questions. We only got through 3 out of the number that we had.
We had a lot to talk about.
We had a lot to talk about here. So in fact, is it Altadena? Is that California?
Yeah, that's near Pasadena.
Oh, Altadena. How come it's not Dina from Altadena? It's Debbie.
I'm sure we can find Dina in Altadena.
Dina from Altadena.
We can find Glenn in Glendale. You can find
Fido at Alpo.
I think we did have Patty in Pasadena at one point.
I think we did. Which is kind of ironic. I mean,
Monica and Santa Monica.
Yeah, but you used to live in Santa Monica.
Never lived in Santa Monica, but I worked there.
Okay, well, you also grew up in the church, apparently. So. Well,
I grew up in the church. I mean, I went to church, Sunday school, and Saturday school.
Oh, you didn't sleep in the pews?
Yeah. Well, I did because
it was boring, but the music was great.
Pretty boring.
But the music was great. So Debbie, we got to get to Debbie here from Altadena. She asks, what are the most important routines to start the day going? Oh, this is a great question. Routines, because we do need rituals and routines. And I was just in a group of people, including Todd Herman and a few others, where they were talking about habits and routines and establishing these things.
Now, who is Todd Herman? If you could,
Todd Herman is the guy.
Let everyone know.
He is a fellow. He's a high productivity coach who has coached a lot of athletes and others, and he has programs. His most famous program, I think, is called the 90-Day Year, which is to be so productive in 90 days that you get done what most people take a year to do. Mm-hmm. And so he's a time management expert. He's also really good at rewiring your brain. And I think he's got a new book coming out. It may have come out in December. I've yet to get a hold of it, called The Alter Ego. And so he's really much into beliefs and mindset and habit changing. And so he was there, and Yuri Elcom, who's from up in Toronto, he's a guy who has a coaching program called Healthpreneur for health professionals who want to develop online businesses. Anyway, but they were talking about this, and I was also, as I was doing my walk before coming back here, listening to a book called Atomic Habits, which I highly recommend. And atomic as in teeny tiny changes in your habits, like 1% changes that you can make. Mm-hmm. And a lot of great examples in the book Atomic Habits. But anyway, that's I'm just, in terms of routines, I mean, you really have to figure out what works for you. For some people, as I mentioned in a previous broadcast, I know somebody who sleeps in the workout clothes and keeps the running shoes at the foot of the bed just so they just have to go into it. Make it easy.
A little fanatical. And I don't endorse that.
But that's what it takes for some people to reduce the resistance to making a change, at least at the very beginning.
Well, when I hear that, I think, well, what is the underlying cause of this resistance? Maybe we should look at that first. Maybe you're not exercising or wanting to exercise. Maybe that's just a symptom of something deeper. And maybe, what else is going on with you rather than,
Well, that is true. Yet taking different actions can motivate or actually propel into new beliefs. So that if you're out running, I say, I'm going out for a run, changing your thoughts and beliefs sufficiently so that you now identify yourself with the words I am. There's a difference between I'm going running and I am a runner.
More present tense. It's more present
I
tense.
am a runner. So it is the identification. It is your new identity. So if you in the midst of writing, you can really say, I am a writer. Now, do you write 8 hours a day? Probably not, unless you truly are a writer. And one of the things that I remember is sometimes you just have to ask yourself the question. And I remember this from a dieter. She used to ask the question.
Now, is that an identification, dieter?
No, identification. Yeah, dieter would be identification, but that's my identification of her because she was a client who engaged me. What's that?
Did she see herself as a dieter?
I don't know. I could give her your name and address and she could tell you, but it's been 10 years. So I don't know.
Right.
I can't go back to that time.
The people that you worked with, were they,
well,
did they
I can call
dieters?
So this is where we get a little nitpicky. I can call someone a patient. There is a patient of mine. I've identified that person as a patient, or there is a client. Does that person see themselves as a client? Probably not. They see themselves as a mother. They may see themselves as a wife. They may see themselves as an executive. I don't know.
Multiple identities, right?
It depends on what level. I mean, I don't know that she thought of herself as a dieter per se, but we do have a tendency to classify people. I mean, I would say that, if somebody comes to me and they're in there for weight loss, most likely they're in there to change their diet. They're not necessarily in there for coaching to become an Olympic athlete.
The reason I picked on that specifically is the word diet and dieter and dieting is loaded. And I hope people don't call themselves dieters as a term that they identify with, because that just means you're going to be dieting for, you're a dieter. I mean, if I called myself a dieter, that meant that's all I do. That's all.
So, if you are hospitalized, you would not call yourself a patient of the doctor's practice. Well,
there's something different being a patient and a dieter, but maybe. I guess
I don't see the difference, because somebody comes to you for help. We conveniently categorize somebody with a label, and that label helps us to separate a person who's seeking help from maybe a staff member for somebody else. I think the whole issue is one of words. And
I think with patient that's why a lot of people are going towards, people certainly in the holistic field and alternative medicine field go more towards client, the use of client now, because it's a little more empowering than patient. Would you agree?
For me, that's a semantic difference that is inconsequential. So
well,
when you talk to a doctor, I'm going to say the doctor usually doesn't see a series of clients, nor does the insurance company say, what is the client's name?
No, that's why I said holistic and alternative doctors and practitioners. Yeah. But anyway, that's besides the point. Let's go back to the word routine. I interrupted you and we went on a little segue there. Routine, you were talking about.
They're only $4,500, by the way, and they do get you from point A to point B.
And habits, routines and habits, yes. And I'm not sure if you can go back to where you were with that before I interrupted.
Debbie from Altadena, what are the most important routines to start the day doing? I mean, okay. What do I do to start the day?
Okay, I think where we were talking about, I thought it was very almost fanatic, like a fanatic who, sleeps in their gym clothes or their running clothes and things like that, which I would never encourage. And so that's where I think we kind of veered off into this whole other place.
Well, let me give you an example. You may call me a fanatic, but I put a glass of water by my bed. So it's the first thing that I do in the morning is drink a glass of water. Now, you might argue that what is it within you that doesn't automatically propel you into the kitchen and filtered water and everything that you have to have it by your bedside? I do it for convenience, not because I'm necessarily an Aquaman. Yeah, I'm not Aquaman, but I just have a glass of water by my bed.
Yeah, so let's look at routines. Of course, we brush our teeth, we take our shower, we go for a walk. It's these habits that you form. And if you're new to, or if you're in the process of changing some of those habits, rather than sleeping in until 8, you want to get up maybe a half hour earlier. So you set your alarm clock, and maybe you want to be out walking earlier. So I've had to do that recently because I had one of my husband's nurses who wasn't able to come in, and I would normally do my walk at 4 or 4:30 when she was here. So now I'm having to switch it to a morning walk, which is fine and everything. But if you're not used to those things, if you're looking for, is that what she's asking? Is that what Debbie's asking? How can she change her habits?
No, she said, what suggestions do you have? What types of routines would be good to start the day?
Yeah, I mean, I think the example of the water by your bedside is a great idea. Have a glass of water.
I would say that you could lay your clothes out.
You could. That
it's easy the night before, so that you don't have to stand there and think, what am I going to wear today? And, maybe spend an extra 5 minutes
Although most people are, just rolling into their sweats these days because they're working at home. So it's like, should I do blue sweats, pink sweats, beige sweats, gray sweats? I hope a lot of people.
Well, you could have sweats optional, because if it's a Zoom call,
sweats off, sweats on, sweats
hopefully
off,
sweats on, sweats off. Paint the fence.
Yeah. So, if you're looking at getting the exercise habit into your daily routine, triggers, you need to look at environmental cues and triggers. What will get you in the mood? Seeing those sneakers, seeing those sneakers at the foot of your bed, seeing those weights in your office, like actually visibly seeing them to trigger that. Oh yeah, it's time for that. Whatever you can do that can help you, just start thinking about doing those things, those new routines. Having, like, in your kitchen, you might want to have the pot ready to cook your porridge in the morning, for example, or the fruit in a bowl. So you grab the fruit rather than grabbing the bagel. You grab the fruit; it's visible.
Not strawberry cream cheese on your bagel.
No, don't even have it around. Don't have some of those tempting carb craving kinds of foods. Don't even have them around. Don't have them on your shopping list. The less out of sight, out of mind. So that's what I suggest.
I think the other things that you can do is you can have a journal or a pad of paper next to your bed, and so that you can actually write down your thoughts. One of my friends does the morning pages routine, and so the morning pages, he just writes out freehand for like 5 minutes straight, and then he throws it away. He shreds it. And the reason for that is he just wants to dump all the stuff to get rid of those endless loops that might be circulating in his head. So he starts the day with a clean slate.
Well, that's the idea of the morning pages. The morning pages are, a way just to, this is unconscious, the unconscious mind. This is not about making logic, having any logic in your writing. You just write anything and everything. I did it for years, and I'll tell you what it taught me is the art of writing. You just write, because if you are a writer, which I am, and you start editing yourself all the time,
that's bad. You'll never get it done.
You'll never get it done. And that's the same thing with life. If you start editing yourself all the time, you'll never get done.
You'll never get life done. Well, when you get life done, they have to figure out a way to dispose of the body.
What I said is you never get done, like we're trying to do in 2021.
Get her done in 21.
Get her done. So yeah, you want to get into a rhythm and a flow, and then a routine develops over time.
Flow. There's always a little bit of resistance at the beginning. You don't automatically start drinking a gallon of water every day when all you ever do is you never even drink water because you're just living off of soda and coffee. So it's small changes. It's incremental, because usually if you try and shock the system too much, it's like the person who tries to exercise like crazy for the first time in 10 years and just hurts themselves and gets exhausted after an hour of exercise, when maybe they should have worked into it gradually over a couple of weeks.
Yeah. And, it's exactly what I just wrote in my article. We probably got all these fun things for Christmas, like a new exercise machine and gadgets to help us, and maybe a Vitamix and, all these things. And instead of it's overwhelming if you're going to start all of them. So just choose one thing, and do that for a while, master that for a while. And then the next thing. So I would suggest making a list, maybe 3 things you want to start this month, and pick one. Start with one.
Think of yourself as your own Santa Claus. Make a list and check it twice, and figure out whether you're naughty or nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, so speaking of people who are nice, we have our Texas friend Alan from Dallas. He says, I'm looking for a system. Oh, this is interesting. A system that would give me a good start to the new year. After 2020, I need to refocus my health and get stronger. Yeah, systems are really important. I think goals are less important than the systems that get you the results that you want. Because once you've achieved a goal, then what? What's next?
Yeah.
So Alan's looking for a system. You got any systems?
Well, the programs that I provide for my clients are systems, because they have a structure, and a lot of people are looking for a structure. I mean, there's so many things that are out of whack, out of kilter right now in our personal lives, perhaps, but also in the large world. There's so much out of, there's no system. Nothing is really systemized. So we perceive it at this point. Everything seems like chaos. So when you have a structure, you feel safer. You feel safer and more protected, and it actually narrows it down, and it makes it smaller and more doable. So you have these doable, practical steps that you do systematically, one after another. And so, yes, a system is good, and there are great eating systems, food systems, just even as you were saying, writing things down, but we weren't specifically talking about food journals. That can be part of your system. Just start writing what you're eating on a daily basis. So you're starting to think systematically. Okay, I have breakfast, lunch, dinner. What time am I going to sleep? Am I getting this exercise in? What time? So you can actually start creating your own system and your own structure. And
there's a question of feedback. I mean, because you do want to gather data and not compare yourself to other people, but compare yourself to your previous self from the previous week or the previous day, or better yet, the previous year. Am I better this year than last year?
Yeah. And how can I improve the next day? And yet you may not. You may go backwards. That's fine too. You just you can keep on failing. There's such a stigma against failing. And life is about failing. It's about failing forward, constantly, trying things out. This doesn't work. This worked, but then I fell backwards, and now I have to try again. It's about trying and doing and finding something that works for you.
Well, like you have the Skinny Jeans program is a system.
Yeah, it's a Skinny Jeans weight loss program, or a program system.
Or system, yeah.
Yeah, so there's, certain precepts that and certain way that we go about it, and there's certain foods that you eat together and times, and It's not rigid where you can only eat this and you can only eat that these times, but there are parameters and you follow those. And the more you follow them, I used to say all the time, if you follow this 50% of the time, you'll get 50% results, 80%, 80% results. So people often start these things and they want to do it. If I can't do it 100%, I'm not going to start.
Yeah, so, that's the black and white thinking that gets people into trouble.
And some people can do 100%. Some people can do 100% for a little while. Some people, many people can't, so they won't even start. So I suggest that you, start a few of the things in a particular system and start to, like I did this detoxification program in November, and there were things I thought, how am I going to do this? I have no time. I'm busy life. And I was, told that, or it was suggested to me, well, just try and do what you can do. And funnily, I was able to do pretty much most of it. Because I decided.
Funnily, I keep thinking of funnels.
Because I decided, and it was sort of a miracle because everything in my surrounding life kind of promoted or supported me in doing this. So when you decide, things move, things change in your environment. It's quite remarkable.
Including pumpkins.
Pumpkins. I still have pumpkins to cook.
Many pumpkins to go before I rest.
My pumpkins to go before I sleep. Yes.
Hey, so speaking of people and family and things you need to do, Anita from Portland is asking, a couple of my family members recently tested positive. I'm assuming that is COVID. When am I safe to see them again? How recent is recent? That's what we don't know. So.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because you're hearing 10 to 14 days to quarantine. And I have heard that people aren't getting rechecked because their COVID test will probably show positive for 6 weeks to 2 months after. And then I'm hearing people are rechecking and they aren't coming back positive. They're coming back negative. So I don't know what's going on with the, talk about systems. It doesn't sound like there's a system at all.
Well, no test is 100%. And I can tell you that, just for example, people think MRIs are the gold standard of imaging as opposed to X-rays. And MRIs are only about 66%. 2/3 of the time they'll give you an accurate result, but 1/3 of the time you get false positives. You can also get false negatives. So the MRI is not 100%. And that's true probably of all these tests. And we even know that the vaccines have a certain efficacy. For some, it's maybe 95%, and others it's 50%. Flip the coin. So,
well, I think it's kind of interesting because these were people, frontline people who were tested positive. I mean, I know them quite well. They tested positive, and their doctors said they could go back to work, but don't bother testing because it will probably show positive.
Oh yeah, it reminds me of my mother. My mother was hospitalized many years ago, and I think she was either 16 or 17 in Germany, she had tuberculosis, and the cure at that time in Germany in the 1930s, was it? Yeah, 1930s, was to wrap the person in a warm blankets, put them outdoors on a patio or a balcony, and then just let the cold air help to kill off the tuberculin bacteria, the bacilli. And so, but here's the thing. So my mom, on one side of my mom, one girl died, and on the right side of my mom, the other girl died, but my mom survived. But so here it is when she goes into the hospital some 60, 70 years later, she tests positive for tuberculosis, even though she doesn't have it. Yeah. And they had to put her in those special rooms with the reverse type of airflow so that all the air sucks in, but none of the air can get out.
Well, it's like H. pylori. Once you test positive, it will always be in your blood. Mm-hmm. Whether it's active or not is a different thing. So that's the bacteria that we know causes ulcers. So, but there's different protocols is really what I'm saying here, is that doctors are saying, don't bother testing because it'll probably be positive. And yet a friend of mine, her mother, they didn't say don't test again. And she was tested within 2 weeks and it was negative. So there is no systematic protocol that the hospitals, the medical world is using right now.
Right.
Because these are people. One is in a 6-unit. What are they called again? I can't remember what they're called. A bed and
breakfast.
No, it's board and care.
Bath and Beyond.
Board and care, where 6 people are there in the house environment, and the other 2 are essential workers. So I would think that both are, well, especially the essential workers, because they're going to different places all the time, that they aren't. Why they aren't being tested, I don't understand that. Even if it's negative.
You're looking at issues of public health and health policy, and
there's no consistency. There's no consistency, which is.
Hey, why aren't tuberculosis patients wrapped up in warm blankets and put outside in the cold? You know, I mean, it was a methodology at one point. I mean,
was that. Well, I mean,
we don't use leeches.
Now I'm talking about in the last week. I'm not talking about.
I think the point is that nobody really knows 100%, and so what you do is you use a diagnosis and a prognosis. And I will say, diagnosis. One of my friends made this years ago, and I was like, that di comes from Greek, meaning to, die, and agnosia, which is a state of not knowing. So you typically have 2 people not knowing what the hell's going on, the doctor and the patient.
But your argument was, why aren't they still doing the same thing they did with your mother? And that was how many years ago?
I'm just saying that why don't we, things evolve over time. We no longer use leeches.
A week period, right? Okay, I understand what you're saying. I understand. But they are doing leeches again. Did you know that?
Well, I'm not doing them. Are you?
They are doing leeches again. I had a client come in to my office, about 5 or 6 years ago, and that's what she was doing. So anyway.
Bad blood.
Anyway, I think we've concluded that topic.
We've beaten that dead horse. Okay, so I've got about 5 more minutes here before I have to run. But so Rick from Palm Springs, man, everybody's from California today. Rick from Palm Springs asks, what's the best exercise for me to do? I've been active for most of my life, but in the last 5 years, I've suffered a herniated disc and an ankle sprain. What do you suggest I start first?
What do you say there, Mr. Chiropractor Doctor?
Well, I mean, the easiest thing I would say is to start with walking, but my concern about the ankle sprain is maybe you should use a stationary bike just to kind of, get some strengthening in the muscles of your lower leg, because all those tendons cross the ankle into the foot. If the ankle sprain is not too bad, then I think walking is your best bet, because I would stay far away from running, sprinting, all those types of things. I think a treadmill is going to screw you up more than anything else. And weightlifting, I would be very concerned about increasing the pressure within the discs. I don't know if you've had any surgeries or anything like that too, because a lot of people with herniated discs either have injections or spinal surgery. So there's a lot of questions here, but I would say start with the easiest things, even exercises on a Swiss ball, and perhaps, even very modified yoga postures can be very good, but you really need to have adult supervision for what you're asking about. So
yeah, I find that restorative yoga, Google restorative. That's probably the best thing to do. When I was swimming with a herniated disc, and that did not feel good at all. So, what do you say about swimming?
Everybody, it's different for everyone. You could do aqua aerobics, which is actually more gentle because you're typically in a vertical position for most of that. Whereas in swimming, there's a lot of twisting because you're bringing your head back and forth to breathe as you swim. And even in the breaststroke, your head's above water, but there's a lot of spinal motion that may not be the best thing for a herniated disc that still needs to heal. Yeah, but I've had a lot of patients with herniated discs who do aqua aerobics very successfully because the buoyancy takes a lot of stress off the spine.
Well, I was doing a very intense aqua aerobics class, and that just exacerbated it even more.
Because it was too intense. It was too
much.
You've
got to find something that is not going to feel bad. You shouldn't feel bad after exercise.
You need modifications, really. And I found the same thing. There are a lot of people. I used to take Pilates classes, and there are a lot of people who couldn't do certain things, and so the instructor would just have them do a modified posture or move.
Yeah, and that's something that the more you do yoga, the more you learn how to do modifications as well, adjustments. The injury can happen with any of these activities, and so one must be careful.
So I hope that helps, Rick. Mandy is next up here. She's from Salt Lake City, Utah. How quickly should I? Oh, this is a good one. How quickly should I expect to lose 30 pounds? I know quick fixes aren't the answer, but what would be realistic? I guess the rate of weight loss or fat loss, actually, because you don't want to lose muscle mass.
Yeah, it's usually 1 to 2 pounds a week, no more than that.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, because you can start aggravating. If you lose too quickly, you can start aggravating some gallbladder issues as well as
liver.
Yeah, and then the wasting. If you're losing too fast, you'll be losing muscle mass.
Well, and structurally too, your spine, your entire body, biomechanically, if you lose too quickly, you can alter the biomechanics. I've had a lot of people who had tremendous back pain or leg pain or something like that when they were losing weight too quickly.
And also your microbiome can be disrupted if you lose too quickly as well.
Can you explain what a microbiome is?
Microbiome are all the wonderful bacteria in your body. We have so many. We have more bacteria in our body than we do cells. So our microbiome is often considered an organ in and of itself. So it's very important. It balances your whole system. And so there's good bacteria, bad bacteria, and it's not really good and bad. It's just, supportive and not very supportive bacteria.
The average person has somewhere between 4.4 and 4.5 pounds of these bacteria in their gut, which is pretty amazing when you think about it.
Yeah. So you got to keep your gut and your your bacteria happy and balanced. And because you're kind of living together.
If you're nice to your gut, you'll save your butt. While you're losing weight from that area, should you desire to do that.
Nice to your gut, and you will also be good to your whole body and your mind too, because it will affect your mind. Your gut has the highest level of serotonin, which is a calming neurochemical, brain chemical. Gut chemical, I guess, as well. So,
man, I got the sun coming at me again. I say free your mind. Your gut will follow.
All right. Well, is that it for questions?
That's it.
We
have rounded up all of our questions, and we did it in under 50 minutes. So, any final words before we check out of here for another week?
Well, just know that the COVID thing is very confusing, and but we'll try and share. I mean, we do have our opinions, and we do try to bring current things, current discussions to this broadcast. So we'd love to hear your ideas, what your questions are, what your challenges are, how you're confused, and maybe you have some things to share as well. So please do that.
Yeah, please drop your comments or questions underneath the video, because we've broadcast to 8 different locations today. And also, you can send direct messages to Monika at the Coaching for Health website. I would suggest getting on her newsletter.
Yeah.
As well as, if you want to send us private messages, just do, because we're there monitoring our communication, not 24/7, but at least maybe a couple hours a day.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
So
if you need any help along the way, we are available for your dancing and dining pleasure. All right. We're out of here for today. We'll be back here at the same time, same bad channel, stay healthy, stay totally healthy, and stay alive.